Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Cox, and I'm the host of the New America Movement. We just so much appreciate you tuning into our show each week, and we've got a great show. Let me say, first of all, I've got my co-host, Jordan Cox. Jordan, say hello.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing this evening?
Oh, we got a great show today, and we're going to be talking about South Carolina politics. South Carolina is a great state to live in, but we're like a lot of states. We're being overran by left-wing liberals that are moving into this great state, enjoying what we have known about for the last, I guess I've been here 35 years. South Carolina is just a wonderful place to live. Great weather, great people. And all the people around the community are figuring this out, and they want to come. They want to share this great state with their families. And that's great. We appreciate it. But they're also sharing their politics. And that's not so good for people that have lived in a red state for decades and want to keep it red. This is a conservative state. And I appreciate Used to be. Well, we still consider ourselves a conservative state, but
we pretty much purple now.
We've got our issues, and we're going to talk about that because one of the big things we see happening in the political world today is how the left are wanting to get into the heads of our children. I mean, from the LGBT community, from gender, from all these issues that you and I would say in some ways, 30 years ago, we would have somewhat been embarrassed to even talk about, but now it's just like a household event in our homes. The LGBT community, and it's almost like the left are going to make sure that our children are well indoctrinated in these issues. And to make it worse, they're trying to drive the CRT down our throats. It's almost like we've got to make sure that kids know that America is a very racist country and that we did a lot of bad things when we built this country. And it's like, if we don't share that with first, second, and third grade year old kids, then they're never going to get it right later in life. And it's like, that's the left's agenda. Well, let me say this. The left's agenda is not going to fly with everybody in America because a lot of people are onto it. They realize this is just a political ploy to downgrade and destroy this country and its conservative values. I have a sense of morality in my life, and that means, I'm not perfect, but I do know right from wrong, and I do have a standard that is based on the Bible. Whether you like it or not, that's me. That's what I go by. When I get up every day, I think about God's word. I think about morality. I think about the decency of how we act. It doesn't mean we don't violate that from time to time, but we certainly recognize it as a point of light. Mm-hmm. But Jordan, these people seem not to have any sense of morality.
No.
They seem to just be okay with anything they want to do to children. And it's like, we've got to make sure kids understand this and know it. Well, we're going to talk about the school superintendent, the state superintendent, two people that are running. Jordan, take off with this just a moment and give us some feedback on what I'm talking about.
Well, so we got two people, Kathy Maness, and you have Ellen Weaver. They're going to be running for this Superintendent of Education for South Carolina. Now, I want to reiterate this. This may be one of the most important. I mean, this is the biggest election we have had, I believe.
In terms of how it will affect our children and the next generation coming up.
Absolutely. This is the biggest election on how it affects our children, on how it affects parents, on how it affects everybody. The reason being is because the person that's running, okay, Kathy Maness, she sounds so conservative. This is why I always say, know who you're voting for. That's why I make those videos. Know who you're voting for. Because on the surface, she sounds so conservative, man. I'm talking like, you read it and you're like, holy cow, this woman's conservative. But then you start hearing stuff about Nancy Pelosi praising her.
I also thank NLC President Kathy Maness of Lexington, South Carolina, for her visionary leadership, particularly to advance youth civic engagement in our cities.
Okay, and people say, oh, well, no, she was praising her work. Well, this is Kathy Maness right here. She says, I was honored to be the first person from South Carolina to serve as the president of the National League of Cities. That is what Pelosi was referring to. She was praising her work for that. Now, her work for that is actually making kids political activists. That's pretty much in a nutshell what she was praising Nancy or Maness for. You have an obligation to the people, not just to get on here and say, I'm a conservative and write a report on Fitz News and have it published and stuff like that. You have an obligation to the people to answer questions. She apparently likes to block people. People in Pickens are blocked, people in Columbia are blocked, people in Charleston are blocked. And these are people that are wanting to know answers. And they're wanting to know why all these Democrats love you. That's all they want to know. Why are all these Democrats love you? And how are you a Republican, but your views line up more with the left? And so she kind of takes this approach of, I'm not going to answer that, so I'm going to just block these people and stuff. So she wants to, she does this Fitz article and everything, and she pretty much says it's all dark money that's doing this. It's not really her. But this is just funny to me because Kathy Maness has offered and drawn praise to and from many liberal Democrats, including Vice President Kamala Harris, First Lady Jill Biden, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and former South Carolina Democrat office holders and candidates, Mandy Powers, Norrell, and Tamika Isaac Devine. Here's what Democrats are saying about Kathy Maness. So if y'all want to know what Democrats believe of Kathy Maness, here it is. I want to thank Kathy Maness for her visionary leadership. That is Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. Thank you, Kathy Maness, for that kind of introduction and the spirit behind it, said Vice President Kamala Harris. Why would you be... Look, I don't know any conservative that would be introducing on stage Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to come up and talk. I don't know one of them. I just don't. So anyway, it keeps going. I pray all the people, this is a good one. I pray all the people who vote in the Republican primary vote for Kathy Maness. Mandy Powers Norrell, former South Carolina Democrat state rep and candidate for lieutenant governor. Now, this is all on Twitter. Agreed, replied Tamika Isaac Devine. Maness endorsed former Democratic candidate for mayor of Columbia. Kathy Maness recently traveled to Washington, D.C. to applaud Joe Biden's budget-busting infrastructure bill, where she is seen clapping and offering praise to Jill Biden. It blows my mind. Kathy Maness' liberal record while serving in Lexington Town Council and running the Palmetto State Teachers Association. Kathy Maness has opposed parents' rights, voted for mask mandates, fought Governor McMaster to push to reopen classrooms, opposed President Trump's education nominee, fought money follows the child, school choice, advocated to raise taxes, opposed bipartisan efforts. So, does this sound like a conservative to you?
It's not. It's just what happens when we have open primaries in this state. You can have liberals playing the role of a conservative, and that's what you have here. These are plants. These are people that are put in power or they have been turned, and they're going to push this liberal agenda for whatever reason. They fly under the banner of red, of a conservative. But you can't go by what they say. You go by what they do. Common sense tells you that people's words can be construed in many, many different ways. But look at what she's really saying behind the scenes and what she's doing. Look at the people that she's running with. And obviously, if you have all these Democrats promoting her, it's obviously because there's been conversations behind the scenes that are promising things to the Democratic Party. Well, what do you think? Am I right or wrong, Jordan? Jump on it.
Well, no, actually, you're absolutely right. And shout out to the Overton Report for actually uncovering this and actually getting this out there. These are comments that I'm about to read that people have made, and it'll blow your mind. It'll blow your mind. So this is, I voted Republican today, said this one person, to support Maness over Weaver. I felt like Ellis would get the Democratic vote without my support, which means she's a Democrat, and so she would vote for Maness over Weaver because she knew in her head and stuff that Ellis would win the Democrat. I vote Maness today and Ellis in the general, said another one. Another comment said, I voted for Maness just to keep Weaver out. I'll be voting for Lisa in November. And I know y'all are wondering who Lisa is. I'm about to tell you. Give me a minute. Then it says, another commenter wrote, I will vote in the Republican primary for Kathy Maness. In the general election, I will vote for Lisa Ellis because South Carolina is a Republican state. I want the best possible Republican on the ticket, even though I will vote Democrat at that time. I voted on the Republican ballot for the first time in my life simply to save education from Weaver. I tried to explain the strategy here, but people were resistant. Today's results illustrate what happens when voters refuse to see the bigger picture. It's depressing to realize that we will be stuck with Weaver and her right-wing conservative cronies.
Now, you got to ask yourself that question. What makes people say that? It is people who are on the left, who are Democrat in heart, and they're scared to death of our conservative agenda. Right or wrong?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. But I want to go back to why I brought up Lisa Ellis. That's who I'm talking about. When they talk about Lisa, I'm voting for Lisa in November. I'm voting for Lisa. It's Lisa Ellis. Now, Lisa Ellis is this person that is very, if I'm not mistaken, she runs SC for Ed. So she is involved with this page or running this page. SC for Ed. And it is, when I tell you it is the most sickening thing you've probably ever read in your life, you will read it and I promise you will run. You will absolutely run to the bathroom and throw up. They talk about how they want teachers to teach kids gender.
The fluidity of gender. So I identify as genderqueer, but I'm super feminine. So the way I present myself always comes off as she, her, but I always have to say, no, it's they, them. I suppose if we educated people more inside schools, especially at a young age, that we could do a lot more good.
I would definitely agree, and I'm loving all of this.
Sex, all this stuff, critical race theory. They talk about it all. How they love it, how they want it in the school, how it's not in the school though. That's now this is where I want to just kind of stop for a second, because one thing that these people are good at. When I say these people, I mean the Lisa Ellises of the world, the Kathy Mannesses of the world. One thing they're good at is actually coming in and saying, oh, well, this isn't part of the curriculum. CRT is not in the curriculum. CRT is not in the state standards. It's nowhere to be found. But all the state standard is pretty much saying that this is what you have to learn each grade. Each grade has to learn this, right? With your kindergarten, you got specific things you have to learn. In first grade, you got specific things you have to learn all the way up through high school, right? So what they do is they come in and they say, okay, the teachers come in and say, okay, we're going to talk about the Civil War today. We're going to talk about slavery. Were you taught slavery in high school?
Absolutely.
So was I. Okay. So this is what these teachers do now. They come in and say slavery was a horrible thing. We all agree it was a horrible thing. We got a civil war out of it, North versus South. They talk about the war and everything, but then they pause and they say, but white people have privilege now because of that. They look at these kids and say, because you're white, you have a privilege over your black friend now because of your skin color. That's where CRT starts to come into. They start talking about stuff in social studies or in math or in whatever, and then all of a sudden the teacher comes in and brings gender into it, or a question is asked even by a student. And instead of the teacher saying, well, that's a question for your parents, you need to go home and talk to your parents about that, or anything like that, they stop and want to talk to the kid about why it's okay to be a different sex. So it may not be there in black and white in the state standards of education, and it may not be in black and white in the curriculum, but you're not stopping the teachers that are actually doing this.
Let me ask you this question. If you're a teacher today and you were teaching on history and you got around, say, 4 BC, we all know what happened at that time. Jesus was born. If you're teaching history, teaching things about the Romans, and you get to that era and you started talking about Jesus Christ, what would the left say about that? If you were to say, apparently he was claimed to be the savior of the world and that today this is the foundation that churches are built upon, wonder what kind of reaction you would get. And the reason I'm saying that is we already went through this with churches, 2 decades ago. The idea that people said we don't want any form of Christianity taught or influenced with children.
Right.
Let parents teach that. Let them go to church and learn that. And so teachers sort of had this little mandate that you taught. You just didn't bring up
and guess
religion.
What? It's still there. That's still there.
Yeah, sure it is. But that's my point. If you're a teacher and you start doing that, then you're going to get called out on quick, and you're going to get brought into the principal's office. And you're going to get disciplined about it and say, you know our policy. You cannot talk about Jesus Christ or your religious faith in classroom. But it's okay to talk about the agenda that the left are trying to create. And it's almost as if you don't go along with that, then you are labeled as a fanatic or someone that is anti-America or someone that doesn't understand what is really happening in this country. When in fact, it's real reversal. We know exactly what's going on in this country, and that's not going to get it, and it's not going to cut it with a lot of parents and people in this country. And we're fighting it, and we're resisting it, and we're trying to say to people who are running for office, we would want you to stop this if teachers start pushing CRT in classrooms, if they start pushing the LGBT community in the sense that you don't know if you're a boy or a girl, then, we need a superintendent that'll say, no, teachers, you can't get away with that. That's not what you're here to do. So what's your take on that?
No, I absolutely agree. You're not there to teach my kid about the birds and the bees and the bees and the bees and the birds and the birds and then the birds and the honeybee and then the honeybee and you're not there to do that.
It's not your job.
It's not your job, especially whenever you can't even explain it logically yourself.
Right.
Because you're changing definitions up.
They can't even decide what their terminology of a woman being. What's
a
woman?
No, they never will. They never will.
Right.
So, but this is what I want to harp on this too, because know who you're voting for. Know who you're voting for. So the teacher of the year is Dion Jamison, and this guy is as radical as they come. He won Teacher of the Year, and he's as radical as they come. So much so that people started doing articles on him because he praises CRT. In the past 5 years, Jamison praised the anti-racist ideology, one that is synonymous with the core tenets of critical race theory. Jamison tweeted in 2020 that he enjoyed reading anti-racist scholar Ibram X. Kendi, who may be one of the most racist men alive. He vowed to use the book as his foundation for classroom learning and said he was fundraising to get the book for students. It may be the most racist book you have ever read. Kathy Maness, if you said that critical race theory wasn't part of our state standards, Kathy Maness, you said that critical race theory was not in South Carolina. Then how did the South Carolina Teacher of the Year award go to a guy that is openly teaching CRT and is proud about it? And Kathy, why do you like that? Why do you like the post? Why do you love that? This woman is just, she, know who you're voting for, people. Know who you're voting for. She does not care about your kids. She does not care if critical race theory is taught. She's all about protecting the teachers, which is fine. You can protect the teachers. That's fine with me. I want teachers protected as well. But we have to hold bad teachers accountable. You have all of these things that she's doing, and it's not conservative. It's not Republican.
Politically, if you will not answer a question that is so clear-cut, that has everything to do with your real value system, and you block that person, that clearly states that you are not a conservative, that you're using the Republican Party to bring about your liberal agenda, and you're disguising it so that you can get elected and you can do liberal damage to this state. And that's what this is really about. If you're okay with this and you want your kids taught this stuff, that's up to you. But I don't. I'm a voice. You're a voice, Jordan. And we're going to stand up and ask the people of South Carolina to get familiar with what's going on in this election when it comes down to the school superintendent.
So if you want someone that is strong enough to do that, don't vote for Kathy Maness. Do not vote for her. She does not care about your kids.
Absolutely agree, Jordan. And this has been a great show. We hope we have educated a few people on some of these issues that the state of South Carolina is facing. Folks, thank you for tuning in. This has been an interesting topic. We hope that it'll help you to make the right kind of choice here when you vote for the school superintendent in this runoff. Thank you once again, the New America Movement. Appreciate it so much. Jordan, close out with us.
Appreciate it, guys. Please comment, like, share, and follow New America Movement. And also shout out to the Overton Report for some of this content. You can go to the Overton Reports page and find where I read the comments that were I was reading off that were on the SC for Ed page. Go check them out. It's crazy. Thank you guys for watching. This is New America Movement. Love you guys. God bless America. We're sure gonna need it.